It is early June 2020, and I've had a hard time getting out here in the garden. I haven't made a video in 2 weeks. I've been out in the garden, but I haven't had the motivation to make a video in a couple weeks because, maybe even 3 weeks, I don't know. Because there's just been so much going on in the world with COVID-19 and with protests, and it's been hard to find the motivation to get out here. But I wanted to take some time to just see things growing and see what's going on in the garden today. So I'm going to start on the big garden here with the tomatoes. They're looking beautiful. I went through and mulched with just some straw in here. I don't know, it might have been a week ago, and then I went and pruned the bottom leaves that were touching the soil, and I just trimmed those off with the scissors so that they weren't sitting in the dirt. And then as these grow and get taller and taller, I'll eventually use some twine to tie them on to the trellis, and I'll continue to trim the bottom leaves because they tend to get sick first. They tend to be the first ones that get damaged and get illnesses like this one right here. So, I mean, this one will eventually get trimmed off too. I'll also go through, because I want to maintain like this one main stalk, I'll go through and I'll take off these little suckers right here when they're little like that, and just trim those right off, or like just pop those right off. And I know that there's a few that I need to come out and just pop off, but they're looking really good. And I've even got, it looks like, are those little flower buds maybe starting right there? It's hard to tell. So got this all mulched, and I harvested a bunch. This spinach was enormous a few days ago. It's starting to come back a little. There was so much, and I harvested a bunch of it, and we've been eating it this last week. I pulled out some that had gone to seed. I'm letting this go to seed again so that I can still get some seeds from it. And honestly, I really don't know how long to let it go to seed. I'm kind of just checking and seeing, you know, when do the seeds look like they're starting to develop. So if there's anybody out there who wants to give me some advice, I know that you have to let them go until they're well beyond, you know, what you think of, you know, being edible. But these still look like they're flowering and that the seed pods haven't developed or fully developed yet. So I'm learning, I'm just trying to figure it out. So I will welcome any advice from those of you who are knowledgeable on saving seeds. That would be wonderful. I've got my peppers over here, my sweet peppers, and my cilantro is really coming along. I've got some good cilantro here. Planted some more cilantro here that is just starting to come up. And then those are my beans, my Vortex pole beans that are starting to grow. And I've got a bunch of little onions. I've pulled a couple onions, not of this batch, but I had a couple bigger ones. We've gotten to eat some of those, which were delicious. And then I'm trying to look at my peppers here and see if it looks kind of like I'm starting to get some flower buds right there. Let's see if you can see them right there. So I still have this chamomile growing here. It looks like it's starting to bud out. I'm gonna get some flowers. I might make some chamomile tea soon from some of the chamomile I'm getting. These zinnias are blooming, so I'm gonna actually probably cut these couple because they seem to, they're kind of cut and come again. You cut them and then you can enjoy them in your house, and then they'll grow new buds. So I've already got some new side stalks where new buds are forming, and these are so pretty. I've not grown this type before. The hot peppers over here are doing well. It looks like my basil here is, I mean, we've had so much rain the last few days, it looks like they're suffering from too much water. Not looking too good. So I'm hoping we'll get some dry spell where things get to dry out a little, because everything's just so saturated. Even today, it's supposed to rain some more, and it's just a really kind of nice overcast, dreary day, but there's a loon singing somewhere. I like these kind of mornings, but my garden needs to dry out a little bit. Marigolds are happy. And then I've got the Vortex pole beans. The snow peas are somewhere in there. They're hiding. I see them in here getting bigger. And then these are the sugar snap peas. They're climbing up. And I need to uncover this today and get in and do some weeding and take care of these radishes that have not been successful for me. They went to seed. They're just like, the greens got so big, and I don't think any of the radishes are actually growing. I'm gonna take off this cover for a second. So I don't know what I did. In another video, I explained how I tried something new this year, and I tried to grow the carrots seeds mixed in with the radishes, which should work. But I don't know if, because I was kind of hesitant to go in and thin them when they were too little, because the carrots were so delicate and I didn't want to pull out the carrots, but then I should have probably thinned them much earlier than I did, because I think they just didn't have time to get big. So, I mean, these are going to seed when they get these little flower tops on them. Then they're usually getting fibrous and bitter, and see, I'm not really getting any, these would have been beautiful radishes. Look, there were like different colors, there was white, and I'm not really getting a bunch of fruit. So I have more radish seeds. I'm gonna try to plant some more here. I might find a few as I pull them. And I have planted some more already over here, which I've gone and thinned when they were much smaller. I need to thin this row still, but I've thinned the row there, and I'm hoping I'll get some more. And then I'm just gonna try to pull these and salvage the carrots that are in there. See, there's just nothing. I have, for the last few years, gotten beautiful radishes, but that's something that you just, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and sometimes you try something new and it works, and sometimes you try something new and it didn't work for me. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It just means that, there's more learning I have to do, that I think I learned from my mistake. I think that I needed to thin them out sooner. So I don't know if I'll try this again to plant them with the carrots. We'll see how the carrots do once I pull them out. But if the carrots do well, maybe I'll try it again in a small patch. But yeah, so I'm gonna pull those out today and get those out and get room for beets growing here and carrots growing here. It looks like my beets are coming back from being devoured by something. So that's why I had the cover on. So I'm hoping that those do okay. I'm keeping the cover on it so that the tops of the beets don't get all eaten off. And then I've also got the cucumbers growing in here, and they're doing pretty good. But yeah, I need to do some maintenance here and clean this out a little bit. And then over here, so again, like, look at these poor basil there, just like getting just overly watered. And I didn't mulch this bed because at the time when I was mulching, there was tons of lettuce everywhere and spinach, and I was letting it grow. And then I just came through and I harvested a ton of lettuce and a ton of spinach, and just like kind of left a little patches of it. I'm leaving this go to seed, and this stuff has been going to seed a little bit longer than the other gardens, so I keep kind of checking, but I still don't think this is ready. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So I've got this going here. I don't know. So again, any advice I will take. This is a new venture for me. So there's my oregano and chamomile in the garden. We've got rosemary. This is looking great. I need to make some pasta and use some of this. The kale's getting big. This stuff just grows great. I need to maybe trim off a few leaves of this and add it to a salad too. And then I've got thyme, sage, chives, lavender, and then eventually all this lettuce. I'll probably pick it 1 or 2 more times. We'll see how long it lasts, and then that'll get pulled out, and then I'll kind of mulch between here. But that's the gardens, I think. Oh, and then sitting here next to the garden, pretty strawberry plant. We've picked, my son and I picked the first couple strawberries off of here yesterday. They were delicious. There's a bunch more. Look, there's a little one in there. And then, oh, I don't know about that one. One doesn't look too good. And so I'm just wondering how to keep the birds, there's some evidence of little critters, out of here and not eating the strawberries before we eat them. So I don't know. I hung these wind chimes here, hoping that like if they landed and that shook around that they'd fly away. I don't know. There's birds everywhere. They love this place. They love going and taking baths in the water feature. I'm not gonna go around to every single garden bed today, but we'll just look at the back here. I am, you know, pretty sad about my impatiens, which I grow here every year, and they usually are beautiful and they're filled in, and I thought maybe there was like a weather problem where it got too cold for them, but I'm pretty convinced now that just something was eating them. There are so many rabbits around here. I don't know if it was rabbits, if it's chipmunks. I don't know what it is, but they're gone. There's just the remnants of a few left, and that makes me sad. So I won't have any impatiens there this year, but I do have beautiful Japanese painted ferns, and the hostas are starting to come up and look beautiful. The caladium back there are growing, they're coming back, so I'm glad about that. Here I've got my calendula and stevia, which have exploded. I've got little buds on several of the calendula. Look, this is pretty. This one was so pretty. I should have picked it before it kind of had its day in the sun. But I'm gonna have lots of calendula, and then this one here in the middle, they kind of match, they kind of look the same, but this one is stevia here in the middle, and I think this one will get pretty tall. So that one, that basket or pot's just looking really good. Over here I've got my squash, which also, you know, this rain is just too much. Look at this. But I've got chamomile and feverfew growing here. So this is another experiment. We're gonna see how this one goes. The flowers are all looking just a little beat up from last night's rain, but look, there's some blooms on the potato vine. The blooms never last very long, but they're so pretty. They're sort of like a petunia shape, but they're like an upright bell, and they're so pretty, and they kind of bloom for a day and then they'll go away and then they might bloom again. But this one's bloomed a couple times already. I don't think I've had any blooms over here on this one, but I do just love this yellow and pink all together. And then this is my porch tomato. It's you know, it's getting tall now. I think last time I made a video, it was like here. I do need to come and trim off some of these bottom because I'm starting to get, this will keep growing and this will create a second stalk, which is fine, except for it's just, it gets unruly in this pot. So I like to try to keep it as like this one central stalk with just the leaves growing off. So I'll come and take a scissors and trim this off, and probably these bottom two that are not looking so hot. And then I'll come through and take the suckers out and get those out of there. So that's the little cherry tomato that we have there. And the mint, this mint was enormous and we made some delicious tea. So I've cut this down and it should bush out again. And then I cut off quite a bit of this chocolate mint, this number, I keep after 8 mint. And I'm hoping these all just bush out again. This was really nice in the tea too. And I'm still, you know, my peppermint that I started from seed is still just too little to pick. So that's kind of the pots on the porch. Better look at the caladium. So this one just like died down and then is shooting up new leaves. And then there's one back there that is shooting up new leaves too. So I'm glad that those are still popping up, and they should be good once they rejuvenate themselves. And then there's the other side of the garden. The lily of the valley are done growing. The coleus are starting to get a little bigger. And the water feature just looking beautiful, and salmon so pretty. I love coming out here in the morning and just listening to the birds and the water and throwing the ball with my dog and drinking my coffee and reading a book. Basil. And this basil, like all the others, is, you know, suffering from too much water. Beautiful flowers. They love the water. These guys dry out so fast. Our rose is coming along, looking pretty. Our first 2 buds, 2 blooms. There's another one coming. Need to trim off the spent ones, the begonias. This little basket is filled, or pot has filled out pretty nicely. The mint growing in here is coming along, even though I planted it later than the other one. This one's coming along much better than the one I have in the rectangular pot. And it's interesting because mint, you know, I thought the rectangular pot would be better for it because mint sort of grows, you know, it shoots out, you know, stems that kind of grow along the ground. And I thought the horizontal pot would work better, but these are really happy here in this, you know, taller pot. And the chamomile's growing pretty well to here. So this one's filled out pretty nice. The potato vine looks good. Got some more chamomile and basil, some more herbs. Ooh, and this parsley is starting to go to seed. So I'll need to trim those off, and I still need to get the sunflower planted out in the back corner bed if it ever stops raining. And looks like I'm gonna have some new buds. Every time I'm out, if I just find a really dead one, I kind of pop it off, and then new buds will grow faster. This is like a geranium, but it's a mosquito plant is what it's supposed to be. Apparently the oils in the plant, if you like take a leaf and kind of rub it between your hands, they have a scent that mosquitoes don't like. And I thought, oh, it'd be nice to keep on the porch and have the flowers, and then also, you know, have something if bugs are biting, I can just pull it off and rub it around. And then I still sadly have not found anything to do with these herbs that I have. I'm thinking they'll maybe go back in the back corner bed too. And then this was a weed that I found in the garden growing, and I think it's the beginning of an oak tree. And I just was like, well, I'll stick it in this little thing and see what happens. And I have some bonsai pots. You know, if this grows pretty well and I can get it bigger, maybe I can eventually have a little oak tree bonsai. We'll see. And then let's see, I have the plantain over here. So I have two varieties of plantain, and this one's looking really good. Its leaves are finally getting bigger. I think they like this like rain and overcast. I think what I'm learning about plantain is they're really a good understory plant. This variety tends to, these plants are better in the sun. They can tolerate the sun a little bit more. But the other variety I have just did not want the sun, so I had to move it away from even the morning sun. I had to put it in more of a shady spot, and it's loving it over there. So there's the plantain, and then my angel wing, or canary wing begonia, which is looking a little beat up here. But again, we've had storms and rain and wind, so everything's looking a little beat up. You can see, look at the size of these leaves. This was the one that my neighbor gave me, and she had pulled it out from underneath some other plants when she was weeding, and obviously it likes being under something. It likes the shade. These would, when I put them in the sun, the leaves would just curl over, and very clearly sending the message that they did not like being in the sun. So I moved them here underneath the Japanese maple and next to the fence that kind of blocks the morning sun. They like it here much better. So those are looking really good. And then my ginger also, I think it was getting a lot of rain also, and it was, not looking too good. These ends were browning. I also had it in a pretty sunny spot, and I think it's also much happier here, more as a filtered sun kind of plant, where it's getting some better green, it's getting some new growth that's not turning brown. So I feel like it's a little bit happier over here. Now, if I could just let it not be saturated all day long from rain. So that's pretty much it that I want to show today. This is our little side garden. I am glad to see everything growing and really coming. We just need a little sun now to get everything dried out. A little combination of rain and sun. And hopefully those impatiens will not get eaten. Got a little tiny rose over there. But yeah, this is so first week of June and 2020, and everything continues to grow no matter what happens in the world. So everybody, I hope everybody stays safe, and everybody be kind to each other. Have a great week.